Hello everyone. So we have been hearing a lot about Federal Reserve about to increase the interest rates. They plan on start increasing by March, and this year they want to take it all the way up to 2.15%. So four interest rate increases. Now I am virtually sure that it's just not possible. And I want to share some charts and data why this is not possible. So, yeah, let's get started. Printing is the name of the game. Yes, there is no question about it. They have been money printing. There has been a lot of deficit spending, especially last year, and that is the only way forward, regardless of the inflation numbers. So today inflation numbers were also released. They were high. Um, Logic says to tame the inflation, you have to control the liquidity in the market. So you can reduce the liquidity by um, increasing the interest rates, um, and that, in my opinion, is not possible. So interest rates cannot be, in other words, hiked meaningfully. They may actually do one or two just to show things, show that they are in control, they want to take right decisions, but they will ultimately have to backtrack because situation will completely go out of their control should they continue increasing interest rates, and I'll show you in a minute. Which means if they cannot increase the interest rates, then they cannot control the inflation either. So what they are going to try to do is they will fudge the numbers to show that inflation is not high, which they have already started doing by that trimmed PCE. I did a video on trimmed PCE. Please have a look. Um, so they are fudging numbers there, and then going forward they will be instead of controlling the inflation, they will do price controls, which will be completely ineffective, but that's what they will do. So this is the first data point: interest payments on debt. And as you can see, last year 2021 interest payments were 562 billion plus dollars, and 522 in 2020, 2019 it was 574. So interest payments are very high when interest rates are this low. Moving on, this is the total debt, total US debt, and as you can see it's just around 30 trillion, so 29 trillion 798 billion. So that's year 2022 as of 1/11/2022, so couple of days back only. Moving on, when you do want to find the average interest rate being paid on this total debt, this is what you come up with: 1.88%. So this is not in percentage, but if you multiply this number, so all I have done is I have used the total debt interest rate spent on the interest rate on the debt, interest on the debt, sorry, and then divided it by the total debt, and this is what you come up with. So average interest rate on the total debt is 1.88%. This is same thing in the form of chart. So as you can see, 2021 interest rate is just below 2%, which is what I just said, 1.88%. This is the average interest on federal debt, and as you can see, historically it used to be as high as 7%. So you can imagine, at such low average interest rate, we are we have to pay 562 plus billion dollars to service that debt. Now this is another interesting chart. This is showing the debt maturity of the total debt. So as you can see, not a lot of debt is long-term debt. Most of our debt is less than 10 years, and majority is less than 3 years. And as you can as you are aware, the lower maturity debt has lower interest rates, and higher maturity debt has higher interest rates, so that the risk is high on the higher maturity debts, so interest rate is high, and likewise the risk is lower on the lower maturity debt, and hence interest rate is um, lower. But if majority of the debt is of the lower maturity, that means the for average to come out to 1.88, um, the interest, historical interest that they have to pay on long term um, debt must be higher to compensate for the lower interest on the lower maturity debt. These are the government bond yields. So as you can see, 1 month is um, just around zero, 3 months 1.27%, 0.127%, and so on and so forth. So our average is coming around to 1.88%, which is around 10 years. So in other words, if you average the total debt, um, the lower and the long term, you can have all the debt around 10-year maturity, and that would basically, that's where basically it falls. Now on the budget side, the total revenues last year were 3.5 trillion, but the spending was almost double, 36.6 trillion, and federal revenue decreased by 3% last year. This is the total spending done by US government, and there is a mandatory spending, and then there is interest payments, and then there is discretionary spending. um, Interest payments are not quite right, as I showed you the other chart, they not chart, the table, that's from the US Treasury, and that's 562, so that's the accurate figure. This is 345 is not the accurate figure. Now from that, you can see the Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security spending is total around $2.3 trillion. As you can see, 1.1 trillion social security, Medicare 369 billion, and Medicaid 458 billion. So what if average interest is increased to 4%? So 4% of 30 trillion is 1.2 trillion, and if our revenues were 3.5 trillion, you are basically left with 2.3 trillion to spend on other things. And if you notice, just the Medicare, Social Security and Medicaid is 2.3 trillion. So you are left with no revenue to spend on anything else, defense, non-defense expenditure, nothing. As soon as the interest goes to 4%. What if interest rate on average interest rate on the debt is 7%? So historically, as I showed you in the other chart, historically they have been as high as 7%. Then interest payments will be 2.1 trillion on the total debt, and you are just left with 1.4 trillion, which can barely cover social security, which can cover social security payments, and then some change is left. And that's basically saying you're not paying for defense, you're not paying any government salary, you're not paying for transportation, you're not paying for education, you're not paying for healthcare, none of all that. And even at 4%, you are paying for social security, Medicare, Medicaid, and that's it, and everything else cannot be covered just using the revenues. So the question is, US has been deficit spending, why can't they keep on doing it? And the answer is yes, they have been deficit spending, and they will have to do that only. As you can see, increasing interest rates make the debt servicing very difficult. And in other words, they will have to print money to cover the deficits and to cover the interest rate on the debt as well. So next question that comes is, how long can US deficit spend? And the simple answer is until foreigners are okay accepting US dollars. So until foreigners are lending US money, US government will deficit spend. And then foreigners put their foot down and say, we're not giving you stuff, you give us the real things. We're not accepting your paper dollars, give us real things in return. And that would be the end of the Ponzi scheme. Inflation will go sky high because people won't be giving US anything, and US won't be having anything to give back, which case they will have to either produce something, manufacture something, or the standard of living will have to go down extremely low. So yeah, it's a very short presentation, but I just wanted to share that even though Federal Reserve keeps on saying that they can increase interest rates, they can't. And mind you, this is very high level sort of calculations. The reality is things will break down much before they are able to increase interest rates in a meaningful way. Why? Because increasing interest rates not only it it will make the debt servicing difficult, it will increase the deficits even more. It will make um, the corporate debts sustainability into it will bring that corporate debt sustainability to question as well. So a lot of companies will go bust as well, so in which will decelerate the economy. In other words, revenues will go down because people will lose jobs. So your if revenues are decreasing, your debt services is increasing, your deficits will go even higher. So things will completely fall apart. And mind you, debt is not also uh, static. That number is also increasing. So yeah, this is a real big problem for debt for Fed, and they're just boxed. They won't be able to do much. Well, thanks for listening. Please share, subscribe, like, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.